I bounce ideas off every day, whether it's, my wife, my co-founder. We're always talking about what are we building next? What's on the roadmap? What's prioritized?
Is it needed? Is all that tech stuff needed, or could you guys get the same tour bookings or better tour bookings and without having it?
You think how many years they've spent building their LLMs, and then ChatGPT comes out and it's just like the greatest knowledge base to work with.
Okay, we're here with Dave. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Dave.
Yeah, my name is Dave Freund. I'm a co-founder with LeaseLeads. We are a multifamily marketing platform.
Yeah, you keep your co-founder well hidden because you've been to our office like 4 or 5 times now, and I've never met this fella or her. I mean, I don't even know. But tell us a little bit.
It's an AI.
Yeah,
that is my first.
I just couldn't help it. Yeah.
My first big secret.
Yeah,
Dylan is just an AI. Dylan actually lives, funny enough, in Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Uh-huh.
I, of all things, met him on Upwork years and years ago.
No kidding.
And it was, I was actually working at a previous agency, met him on Upwork, and a few successful web projects later, we kind of went full steam ahead with an agency, did that for a couple of years. And then it was finally like, we should start a business.
How cool.
He's very, very talented. He's very reserved,
Have you gone to Thailand yet? Have you met him?
I have. I got to meet him in person. When my wife and I got married, we did like a 5-week trip around Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
And one of the stops was in Chiang Mai. So I got to meet him there.
That's awesome.
It was incredible.
That's super cool. Well, for those that don't know about LeaseLeads, what you say marketing platform, but that can mean a lot of things. So maybe just give it some tangible, like kind of the problems you guys solve.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we started with websites. We have a wide variety of website themes to choose from. And beyond that, our secondary product is a virtual leasing agent. It is a video-powered virtual leasing agent. So it's really those two core products. Of course, we support all that with a property analytics dashboard that we're continuing to expand on every day. It's really just the question of like, where is the industry going kind of with this venture into AI and us trying to create this asynchronous leasing experience for people, and how can we support that journey?
Yeah. Well, Reed, you caught some Dave's session earlier where he was talking about video on websites and stuff.
I just want to hear more about it now, frankly. So it sounds like, I don't want to use your words. I'm just paraphrasing, but that kind of, knowing that the next generation, and I don't even know if we should be saying the next generation, but more and more renters are leasing sight unseen. Mm-hmm. And that you guys see a big opportunity or need, one and the same there to help that process and give them still the human touch point or human vibe, the humanization, if you will, the interaction that they're still probably needing and seeking. So can you just talk us through a little bit more, like as much as you can on audio, but what that looks like, what that feels like?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of how it came to be, or like just the product,
the actual experience. Yeah.
Yeah. The actual experience, it really, without getting too far into the story, it came to a head during COVID, right? Where we would build all these sites, and every time we would launch them, we'd get a chatbot slapped on, and it's like, what is the need it's trying to fill? Well, answering questions that the website might not do, right? So really spun off into this rabbit hole of how can we recreate the leasing experience when no one can go in the office? Like physically, no one could go for whatever that was the year that we were on lockdown. It felt like no one could go into the leasing office. So how can we emulate that experience completely hands off? And the answer was video. There were a couple of video tools, non-industry specific at the time. And the light bulb came on for us. It's like, well, let's do all the things that we're seeing in the chatbot plus the video component. So we, to your point, Reed, can really humanize the leasing experience and make sure we're not losing those touches moving forward.
So then is the video, and forgive me because I haven't seen the demo or, one of the websites, is the video living in the widget?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. The widget is the video essentially, right?
Okay.
So you, the way we've kind of branded it is you literally have a leasing agent waving at you in the corner. It's pretty hard to miss. Tends to convert pretty well for that reason. But you open it up, you're going to get what we call a welcome video. And it's funny, like I used to serve tables, and it's kind of like when you walk up to greet the table, what do? You give them the overview of the restaurant, you tell them why you're different, you tell them why you're special, and you basically have 30 seconds of their attention. We do the same thing with properties, where we coach them up and do an onboarding call and say, these are the videos we need to launch. And that first video is the most important. Granted, we're going to layer in footage of what's around, the amenities, whatever really miscellaneous footage you can give us. But the goal is to get their attention, get them hooked, and get them down the funnel further.
So who produces that video? David has an allergy to stock images and photos. So I'm assuming these are not actors, but I would also understand if sometimes you have to resort to that. But yeah, is it best practice is we want the property manager recording this? And how do you handle the production, scale that? And what's best practice for refreshes? Like, do you do seasonal, like welcome, hey, it's spring now, that stuff. So how do you kind of keep those videos fresh, and who's actually doing the production?
I love that question. We spent an obnoxious amount of time thinking about how that would scale. And there was one other competitor kind of early on at the time, and I believe they were going out to every property on site, and we just knew immediately that wasn't going to work. Everyone in today's world has a smartphone. So really you're talking about stabilization, good lighting, good sound, right? I mean, here we are. It's pretty incredible what technology can do. So we send them a kit. It's theirs to keep in, specifically if it's a lease up, a lot of times property's evolving quickly. So to answer your question about new videos, we don't have any additional fees at the moment for providing new videos. So as your property is evolving, we edit them, we integrate them into the virtual leasing agent. It just continues to evolve as the property evolves. Seasonality, we don't see as much with people updating their videos with the seasons or things like that. While I wish we did, it just seems like they really get it right. They get that tour that they're happy with and let it run there. But
it's not then, I guess, a need or a best practice necessarily to refresh the video. Like if you nail it, that might survive for a year on the website.
If it's the perfect tour, if the weather's good, the sound's good, there hasn't been any significant changes in your amenities, why not? I mean, the goal is, it's ultimately like, it's funny because people try to put us in the tour bucket. Yes, it is a tour tool, but ultimately what we're trying to do is get engagement. And I think that's why tour tools are there as well. And as long as it's serving that purpose and we have the data to back it, we're happy with it and the client's happy with it.
So take us past the greeting then. So you nailed the welcome video, but then of course with these bots, the conversation starts. Mm-hmm. How does it go from there?
Yeah, awesome question. Our core feature is going to be our virtual tour aspect. So basically once they get that welcome video, they're presented with a few different options. Well, if they're sold at that point, they can schedule a tour. They can look at available floor plans in like an actual a grid that feeds from the PMS. However, my favorite piece of it is the virtual tour component because it's kind of like a choose your own adventure type journey through the amenities, the floor plans, things that you typically don't see from your 3D tours that are out there. Mm-hmm. And then you get, guided or unguided. So if the leasing agent wants to be in the video, most times that's the case. They can give you the spiel about the package room or the pool and different nuances that you're never going to get over just video alone, or just especially, images in a gallery. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure in that way. You can click through each video kind of on the one pane on desktop, and mobile, it's of course a full takeover. And really ultimately we just want to give them the most comprehensive 3D sense of the community before they step foot in the door.
Cool. But you do stop short of, deep fake or something, where, the video keeps talking like the property manager, and you're able to actually have a conversation. It's more of a prompt. It's like, and then choose your adventure.
Exactly. So, we are beta testing AI chat right now. It's been a little bit of an ethical battle for me because it takes away from that human component. And I think it's going to be a little confusing when people are like, well, there's a human here in this video. Who am I talking to, right? I think we're definitely going to have that UX challenge when we roll it out to market. But in general, with deepfakes, AI video, there are a couple companies I've seen that are doing like fully AI generated video. In my opinion, we are not there yet. I think we could be in time, but there is some like deep psychological component where humans just snuff that out. And they're like, this conversation feels phony. Like, we just want to show them the property and let the property speak for itself.
Yeah. Well, I guess I should ask, like in current day, we witness some client websites have 3-4 widgets on them. So talk about that. And I guess maybe the challenges that you face both with your web product, but also here as you have another widget.
Yeah.
Right. So how yeah, just what challenges are there? What's your recommendation for most people?
Yeah, it is. It is a battle of real estate. You only get the two bottom, the two corners, right? And I mean, unless people start throwing them at the top, which we might see here soon. But
NASCAR.
yeah, it is. In my opinion, it is a challenge of capabilities. We started with tour scheduling. It's something that the industry, I think, struggles with in general, is getting the calendars to communicate and availability. We nailed that down pretty well early on because we started with websites. And the thing we see occasionally is we launch the VLA. Well, hey, we want chat. Okay, so chat goes in the other corner. So hence why we're getting pushed more and more for chat. But I think to answer the core of your question, it's capabilities that I don't think are native to a lot of website products: tour scheduling, chat, and then really video, right? It's kind of those three things that I typically see shoved in the corner. Video kind of mixed with 3D tours. I think that's going to change in the near future. I think you're going to see a consolidation of capabilities. AI chat, I'm sure, is here to stay. 3D tours, walkthroughs are here to stay. It's just a matter of like consolidating that to one experience so it's not intrusive.
Yeah, I mean, I even see like accessibility widgets and these types of things popping up too. So that's what I'm saying. You sometimes see 3 or 4 different technologies on the site. But does that mean that do they see you as competitive to the bots, basically the chat bots, therefore does that, I guess, do you feel that your solution doesn't work unless you end up adding like this chat component, or is there a different way to handle it?
I feel like people have this affinity to chat now because it's the thing that's closest to AI and understanding the next step for AI's evolution. Personally, there's a lot of go look at Sora from OpenAI. It is an incredible product, right? People aren't talking about that here, but Sora could have a huge play in real estate in years to come. Right now, what's easiest to grasp is ChatGPT. So I think people do see us as competitors to chat products. At the end of the day, we're all trying to get engagement. When you look at, I would be interested to see the data on chat products, especially when there are other features available like scheduling a tour or calling or things like that. What percentage of clicks and engagement that physical chat is getting. We're about to find that out for ourselves here when we roll ours out. But nonetheless, I do think they see us as a competitor.
Well, because then it's almost like I have to pick one or the other, and that just becomes a challenge. And in my experience, it seems many marketers or whoever buys the chat or the virtual leasing agent, which in the past to me was more text-based.
Yes.
And they're buying it more because they really want conversions. They want someone to book the tour. It's like, is it needed? Is all that tech stuff needed? Or could you guys get the same tour bookings or better tour bookings and without having it? Because a lot of the times the people engage with the chat because they've got a question because the website stinks and it doesn't have all the information, or it's hard to find the information that they really want. So they're like, I'll just ask this chat thing, like, what's the pet policy, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, cool, I can have a large breed, therefore I will book a tour. So anyways, it's just interesting to me. I don't know if I don't know that there needs to be two separate things, and I don't believe that there needs to be a winner take all either.
Yeah, I think better websites will answer a lot of the simpler questions that chat is there for now. Pet policy, things like that. We're seeing better websites in general that are answering some of those more comprehensive questions. There's a couple vendors here that do a fantastic job with websites in the space. However, when you get into those more esoteric questions, hey, I'm moving in, April 14th, and I've got a dog, and I want a 2-bedroom, but I don't want to spend more than $2,000. Now, if you're typing that out as a prompt, and you can get a rich snippet delivery on exactly the floor plan available, yes, you could do that through the website. Yes, you could work through the filters on the floor plan page. It's just the medium that they use. We're seeing the same thing with video. If you can give them the content and get them converted, I think that's the ultimate objective. So whether they do that through chat or the floor plan page is really up to them.
Yeah, and if you have that experience, like if that's what the user wants to do, it seems to me. So I was talking earlier about like the different search experience you used to get on Google versus Yahoo versus whatever. And right now, if you're an apartments shopper, you don't really spend a lot of time engaging with, meaning you don't build an affinity for a certain chat or virtual leasing solution because you so infrequently shop, versus you are using ChatGPT or whatever your AI agent of choice is. So I would see them be more likely to be like, well, I'm an expert at using Bard.
Mhm.
or Gemini or whatever it is, right? Versus like, okay, now I'm going to learn how to prompt engineer this particular multifamily website just so I can figure out the pet policy. Seems to me you'd rather ask your Gemini or ChatGPT like the things you just said, like in the zip code, let me know blah blah blah.
I think the LLMs are becoming so robust. I almost sympathize with and I'm probably going to get some shade for saying this, but I almost sympathize with the earlier chat companies to market. There's a couple big names in the space that have done, really well for themselves in terms of raise. And you think how many years they've spent building their LLMs, and then ChatGPT comes out,
Mhm.
and it's just like the greatest, knowledge base to work with, ever for any chat product you want to build off of it. So to your point, yeah, why wouldn't you just use a tool like that? It has rich, deep contextual understanding that you could build off of specifically for multifamily.
Yeah, it's interesting, Reed. We were just talking about moats on a separate interview that we did, and in the past, like if you built your own NLP NLG, you had built up more of a moat. But then someone comes in and they're like, "Guess what? We've got portable bridges or whatever that just go across this moat." And now you got to decide, like, okay, do we try to build more moat around what we had, or do we adopt? Now, and on one hand, if I'm one of those legacy chat companies, I at least have experience in how these users engage with these things and what good success looks like and whatnot. So you can basically like, it seems like the R&D should go more swiftly, even if you are replacing a lot of your infrastructure. But anyways, anything you have there to pick up on your?
Just no mode is forever, and the more kind of diverse, which is way easier said than done, you can make that moat, the more endurable your company is, because we were part of what you're describing in a way. Like we were building out our own NLG platform, and felt like that was going to be one of our bigger kind of assets to the company. And ChatGPT happened, but we weren't disrupted by it anywhere near as much because we didn't have a bunch of revenue tied to it, which these kind of early LLM, like chatbots and whatnot, that's exactly where they're at. So tough spot, but it seems like most of them are finding ways to work in concert or complementary with it, versus being completely like, I don't know, caught flat footed and not knowing where to go. But I did want to bring up from our last cast, we talked to Ariel. Where was she from? Carter Hazeman or anyways, VP of marketing there. And I asked her about websites, and I just said, where do you see the biggest opportunities or concerns for that matter? Very, broad, wide open question. And she said, I'm actually like unsettled by all that Google is doing now with websites, meaning they're taking all that content and they're making really the front door is Google, your Google business profile, not a website anymore. And the concern she seemed to express is that, yes, there's a lot that's answered, but there is a lot that is not. And because of, I don't want to call it the consumer, renter's laziness, but that they won't spend time actually because they are in such a hurry or want to just get it finished, that they'll end up not being a qualified lead, or, just inefficiency starts getting created because of Google being so committed to, leveraging content, right. So that you don't have to spend time on a website. I don't know if that rings true with you, but I'm just curious, like where you see some of the bigger, beyond like your own company, like thoughts, perspective, concerns around that equation.
I previous venture was an agency, and half of our services were SEO based. And we always joked. I remember when Google introduced featured snippets, everyone kind of had a meltdown because they're like, well, no one's going to go to my site anymore. Right. And I'm paying all this money for organic traffic. I think people still found a way, but it's going to have an impact. It's funny how Google really helped to pioneer what I think is the architecture of the internet today, but now they're seemingly stripping it back down. Sorry, Google, because people built these beautiful websites and invested in having such a great user experience. But it took Google a while to be like, if we can get your data, we're just going to give it to them before they get there.
Right.
And then it's like, you're not really incentivizing the internet at that point anymore. So it's going to be a weird dynamic. I think when you put AI in the mix and AI-driven content as well, we're in for a pretty interesting ride over these next couple of years.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
with where paid and organic play.
Well, I think this is why it's important when you have a business, particularly once you have some scale. So, like, as you were saying, like the moat conversation about like any chat incumbents, like in a way, they have a moat in the fact that they're across thousands of properties, and I have not experienced someone that loves to change vendors. Like, meaning it's laborious, and so that gives you like a foothold to say, great, now we can experiment with these things, but we don't have to go full bore at it. Versus the startup that like tries to go full bore with NLG, and then like it hallucinates and causes a fair housing violation, and you're like, oh shoot, and then is your company kind of dead in the water because of that? So where I'm going with this is like I remember when Google, you were saying feature snippets, it's kind of like they went through this 0-click era. So similar to like the ZIRP, like zero interest rate era. Now we have a 0-click era for Google. And I also remember when I think, Reed, it was like year 2 of our company when Google flew us out to campus, and then they spent like 4 hours with us in that conference room. And at the time, they were asking kind of like deep diving on like, should we get into apartments, kind of conversation, like kind of what they did with hotels and flights. And I remember I was at Social Media Summit a few weeks ago, and people there were talking about like, well, when Google goes into apartments, everything's burning down. And I'm like, if we would have overreacted then, and we would have had good reason to, with us being a young company, not profitable, and they fly us out there, and we decide, you know what, so we're not going to do any Google stuff because they're clearly, interested, then we wouldn't be near where we are today, just from, a viable organization and company. So I'm just more making the point, like it's important to not overreact to these things, but as we've been saying, like always have some arm of R&D where you're experimenting, and, you got to play your own game, I guess, run your own race.
I think the end of the day, it's the most immersive, informative, engaging context for the user. I think Google's going to take a while to get there. Granted, my wife just showed me something the other day. I can't remember the name of it, but Google is now, you can record a video, walk through a unit, business, what have you, and it can convert it through AI to a 3D model. So
watch out, LC3P.
Yeah, Matterport, those guys. When I saw that, I was like, wow, that is really impressive, but also kind of scary to those 3D tour type companies. So it'll be interesting to see if Google adopts that. If they're going to small businesses and saying, hey, go take a video, scan it, submit it here, and you'll suddenly have a 3D tour. That certainly will have an impact economically on some providers out there. But I think we're a ways off before people really are comparing apples to apples for, a $2,000-$3,000 a month apartment and letting Google serve up the results for that.
So what do you like? What's it look like for you, like as a founder, when you're deciding to invest in product development on something where you're like, well, maybe the website goes away if these AI, like if your personal AI gets so good, like, but you're investing in this thing that's like kind of like, oh shoot, if this takes off, I kind of don't want, the personal AI to get so good. So just how do you think about that, with building your company?
Yeah, I love that question. I think a lot of it is staying really in tune with the industry, staying really in tune with your customers, but also stepping back and thinking very abstractly about worst case scenario. I think that's like the life of the founder in general, is just like always play out how you think it's going to evolve and where your customer thinks it's going to evolve, meet them in the middle. I bounce ideas off every day, whether it's, my wife, my co-founder. We're always talking about, what are we building next? What's on the roadmap? What's prioritized? For us, in the immediate, it's chat. We're building out a lot more website themes with a fully rebuilt kind of layout and floor plans interface, because that's what we found as kind of the market needed. Sometimes it's goofy things, like a specials banner. People love specials banners in our industry. It's like the goofiest thing. You'd be like, I have, Chat GPT integrated into our full website. And they're like, cool. Does the special, integrate with my PMS? Like, so goofy things like that, we're getting from the customer side. The big abstract, market bets on what we think is going to be valuable, I think are the big like product feature rollouts that we're pushing outside of just direct customer feedback.
Yeah, totally. Well, I always love our conversations when we grab lunch. I feel like you have numerous hot takes. So before we get out of here, what else are you passionate about that's a little contrarian? That you feel like sharing right now?
Hot takes. The one that comes to mind, there's a lot of 3D tour providers. There are a lot of companies trying to kind of emulate the floor plan experience. Some companies that are trying to do unit level tours. I mean, hot take, I think unit level tours are a very ambitious move. I think economically it's extremely hard to navigate. I think, we're on 250, coming up on 300 properties with the VLA, and it's like, we can barely get a model floor plan video, let alone like unit by unit tours. So my hot take is like, that is a really big pipe dream for the industry. I would kind of step back from that and just think like, if you're going to do that, do it when the building is a brand new build and you can physically walk through each unit. Otherwise, best of luck with that. My other hot take is going to be the 360 tours and just like floor plan tour services in general. They're great. I think the challenge is like a lot of times I see them shoved into like the floor plan page of a website, which, I don't know what percentage exactly across our portfolio we're seeing with people landing on the floor plan page, but it's challenging. I think you really need to have that stuff front and center. I think you need to put it on your homepage where it's visible and you like can't miss it, especially for one of like your model units. Selfishly for us, like putting it in the corner so people can engage with it and it's on every page. So my other hot take would just be like really considering how much you're paying your vendor for those types of tour tools and how many people are truly interacting with them.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have any?
I was just going to move, if I could, from hot take to hot seat. This is, I think, our last podcast. Yeah, it's a little David humor, but and I'm going to acknowledge that I don't think we have this answered or settled. But I just read the book Lazy CEO, which is a referral from David, and they talk about the mafia offer that every company really should have. And from Godfather, like, I'm going to give you an offer that you can't refuse. Do you feel like you have that?
I feel like we're building towards it every day in terms of our product offering.
Yeah. Like if you're going to a client, like, do you have the mafia offer?
I think the premise of what we're building is that we should always be trying to build the mafia offer, but we'll never get there. You know what I mean? It's like
very deftly handled there.
Well, we're one of two companies that I know doing this. 2.5.
2.5.
We'll go there later.
I wouldn't even give them a half. I'd say 0.25.
2.25. But why I say that is I think it's kind of us or them in terms of the offering for emulating your leasing experience. Now, if you want to take a floor plan, have it on your floor plans page, great. If you really want to emulate that leasing experience, what are your amenities? What are some of your other highlights? Who's the team? What does the community look like? Then I think we're one of two right now. When you look at, our comp, there's a lot of technical things that I don't think they're able to do that we are in terms of tour scheduling and the AI chat that we're working on. So it is right now, objectively speaking, it is an offer you can't refuse, but we're building every day to just provide more value so people can truly have that hands-off asynchronous leasing experience.
You did say up front that it's a multifamily platform. So, and I'm sorry if I missed it, but are you serving, student
as well?
And then what about senior? Because it seems to me they'll be the last to adopt like the generative AI and like, that they would favor, your product basically more in the video side where it's like, we want a welcoming, happy face, like make us feel comfortable versus like having to engage with a bot. So it seems like senior could be a big win for you.
It is purely a resource limitation. We just hired our first BDR. Student has been really the most, I shouldn't say surprising because the demographic loves video. I mean, they're engaging with video content probably more than any other type of content. So the numbers in student are crazy in terms of lead to lease conversion rate. Mm-hmm. And, we get to compare it against the website because we have the luxury to compare both metrics. And this thing's most times it's converting 100% better than a website, lead to lease conversion.
Wow.
And I think it's just because they're more informed with video content. But we've seen a big adoption in student, to go back to the original question. It's been surprising. It's exciting at the same time. And I'd like to get into senior. It's just a matter of time, really.
Cool.
I want to go back to your mafia for a second, Reed. And this is open discussion because, Dave, you know the industry super well. But is there a company in this space that has a mafia offer?
We we would all be, I mean, you and I would be speculating on this, but I feel like when we first went to market with websites, what we were hearing early on was, I get Rent Cafe for free, and in the book, they specifically talk about, God, I'm not at my best right now, so I can't call up the company, but it was something to that effect where they were throwing in, data services, some type of service for free.
Yeah.
And he said that it's often is a cost play, that's typically what's behind a mafia. It's not that it's, no slant or whatever to what you were saying, that it's about how exclusive your product is. It's like somebody's going to come in and just cut you off at the knees because they're going to be able to do what you do or similar value for half the price. And I feel like that is what Yardi was attempting to do and had some success with, because I got into that debate with one of our clients about, like, is it really free? And I was getting nowhere. It was like, to our clients, it is. Like, they don't actually see, a line item for websites. It's just, it's all bundling and moving peas around on a plate. But yeah, so I don't know if that's a great example, but
no, I love the discussion because when we first got into the space and we learned of apartment lists, so we had them on earlier, and I was like, well, this seems like a mafia offer. You only pay for the leases you get. That sounds amazing. And I would talk to clients and be like, why is that not on every property? And they'd be like, well, lead fatigue, I get lots of them, and it's unpredictable, it's hard to budget for. And it's like, son of a gun, because if I would have I was like, maybe I would have invented apartment lists, like that concept.
I think they did have the mafia offer, though. Isn't that how they got that much scale? Is they were the first to come in and offer a performance model.
Yeah,
performance-based ILS. They just completely crushed it. There's somebody else, as you were talking through that I feel like
I thought you were gonna go with the
I've got one.
guarantor.
Well, you and I have talked about, like, is there a day where there isn't a management fee for search? And we were like, but what would our cost model be if we did away with that? But can you imagine going to clients and saying there is no management fee?
Yeah.
And there's been folks that have tried that with some sort of flat fee, but it's still, there's the fees.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that's an example, and I'm not going to give credit to anybody that I don't want to give credit to, but there is a company that's coming in with, half that price. There's concessions, so to speak, that you have to make to like work with them. But they're disrupting the industry. So I think there's quite a few actually out there if we really were, being honest.
I think the other one I would say is Engrain. I think they do a fantastic job with their sitemap tool. I haven't seen anyone else touch it. They're building with they're expanding on that with the Spaces offering, I believe it's called. And I think that's a really good play. You have this kind of visual floor plan experience. It's all integrated. So I'm sure there are other smaller names out there that are doing sitemaps and things like that. But I think that's a pretty well protected space for the time being.
Totally. I think they do have great product adoption and scale, and there's no one that seems close to, like, knocking them off the pedestal at the moment. But there's definitely a lot, as you're saying, that do floor plans and tours. It's just interesting because it's almost like how you want to define mafia versus truly like Godfather, right? Because in your case with, like, if you want a video, I don't want it to sound diminishing, but the video widget, and it's like there's not a lot of options.
Yeah.
And so in that case, like, if that's the solution you want, then maybe
isn't Dwellsy a bit of a mafia offer?
I mean, you might think so. This is where I'm going with it.
He finds ways to make money on the back end, but he's basically like going around
free ILS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're fans of Jonah. We had him on. I think it's great, and he seems to be finding some great traction with it. But why wouldn't you sign up? That is in fact the mafia offer.
But that's the whole thing with, like, even like Robinhood, where it's like no trading fees. It's like, well, then you are the monetization model. And so it's just what you're willing to pay for. I personally don't love the idea. And so I want to spend more time, a separate conversation together, talking about, like, would we want a mafia offer? And I say because of what you said, because in the book he points out that it's typically like low cost. And so then you're running to the bottom. And if you cut your fees and margins or whatever too much, it doesn't leave you just the ability to invest in additional product development and whatnot. So then don't you end up becoming reactive and you let someone else do the innovation, which then means you have to come in and copy them and undercut them.
If it's strictly price that you're using, which I know he said is the common method, but in the case of, like, the paid search, if there's other things that you've done to set yourself up for that, you still do have the margins and the profits to reinvest. But if you don't do anything different and you just suddenly decide to wake up one day and cut your rates in half, you're doing the industry no favors, and you're certainly doing yourself no favors.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to, in a mafia offer, like rethink your business potentially, in a broader sense. Because you and I said the beauty for us of a lot of what we did early was we built a business that was equipped and could absorb fluctuations in budgets. And a lot of our competition did not build their business that way. So they really couldn't ever move that direction without causing huge problems for shareholders, the company. And so I just mean, if we were ever to try a mafia offer, it would need to be in a scenario that we were completely equipped to absorb the disruption it would cause internally.
What was the book again? It was the
Lazy CEO.
Lazy CEO. I'm gonna read that.
Yeah, really good. I mean, I've torn through a lot of books, and I told David, I was like, that one, I mean, every other page I was writing notes. Yeah.
Love
a lot
that.
of value in it.
This is the first time he told me he was going to get the printed copy.
Oh, wow.
Versus just the Kindle and the Audible.
You know, it's serious.
Yeah. I was like, oh, shoot. You're going to have a book on the shelf now.
They all just end up like in my garage or in storage anyways. But I did want him to know how much value I got from that.
Oh, that's great. I'm reading The Creative Act by Rick Rubin right now. Really, really like that book. It's kind of like you're familiar with Rick Rubin?
No.
Producer for Jay-Z, Beastie Boys, Adele. Like, he's kind of one of the great creatives. And he has a couple episodes on Huberman that are really good to check out.
Man,
but
now you got me hooked.
It's great.
I'm a big Huberman fan.
The book is like a warm bath for the mind. It's just very philosophical and creative, like very right brain. Really, really enjoy it.
I'm trying to sprinkle those in. That used to be more my MO, is like right brain, like not enough left, even though I have, I think, a lot of, I guess, analytical side to me. But now, we've just gone so deep into, company building, business building, and so much of that is about logic and strategy. And so it doesn't leave a lot of room, if you don't carve it out deliberately for that kind of stuff. So I would love, those types of referrals.
It was a forced pivot for me away from the analytical stuff for a while.
Right. It's good. Take a break.
Nice to take a break. So
cool. Well, Dave, if people want to learn more about LeaseLeads and your offerings, what's the best way?
Yeah. Check out the LeaseLeads website. It is leaseleads.co, not .com. Another podcast on that one, but yeah, leaseleads.co. You can learn about our website product and our virtual leasing agent. I'm not too far from behind that schedule tour button or schedule demo button. So definitely reach out and we'd love to show you the product suite.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Dave.
Thank you for your time. Really appreciate you guys.